Welcome to our Sound for Video session. It is the 22nd of December, 2016. And in today's episode, we're going to look at just sort of the start of what's involved in mixing sound for a short film. This is a very simple film. It's a documentary about a guitar maker who lives in the local area here where I live. And we're going to take a look at kind of just the basics of getting things organized and kind of the high level of the types of things I would do to mix this film. It's a very simple film in terms of the fact that it only has dialogue, it has music, and it has just a few effects. So it's pretty straightforward. There's one music track, there's one track of dialogue, and there is, I think, two sound effects. There's some stairs that he walks down at one point, and then there's also a machine that he uses to sort of brush and polish the finished guitar. So let's take a look at this. First of all, my collaborator on this, and actually the director and, well, is he a producer? I don't know. It's just a passion project. But he was the director and the DP, my friend Levi Whitney, and he's with, he has a little production company called Uphill Cinema. He was kind enough to allow me to be involved in recording the production sound and now doing the mixing. So what he did is he first, of course, when we were at the production, he did all the DPing. I did the sound. When we were done, I gave him my compact flash card from my sound devices. He downloaded that onto a computer, and he went off to do the edit. Then when he was done with the final cut of the edit, no color correction or anything else done yet, he sent me that cut, and he sent me an OMF file. An OMF file is essentially an XML file that defines where he cut things and where the different clips from the audio were laid in. So let's go ahead and open that. I'm in here in Adobe Audition CC. Let's see here. Here's the OMF file he provided. So I can go ahead and open that. Now, once I open it, it's asking me, okay, I have the file. Where do I find all of the audio clips? So that's where we have to kind of point it next. And so what we do is we come back here. I also downloaded all of the audio clips on my computer here, and they are these WAV files here. And we essentially had a couple different scenes. We had a bunch of things that we shot in the basement, and then we also had the main interview. So I'll go ahead and choose that folder, and it will import all of those. And once we have them imported, you can see here it takes us to multi-track mode within Audition. I can tell you very quickly here, first, these bottom two tracks here look like the music. You can always tell by the waveform. And just to confirm that, we'll solo these two tracks, and let me just put the playhead up here. Let's confirm. Yep, definitely is the case. It looks like he did a fade in right here. So I think that's kind of given us a clue. That's what he wants to do there. That's cool. Then we'll go ahead and turn off the solo here. What I'm doing here is just sort of getting the lay of the land, and I'm going to start doing some organization. So the next thing I have here, I want to see what these tracks, actually before I do that, now what I'm going to do here is bring in the reference video itself. So he also sent me a reference video. I bring this in so I can see the visuals. I can see the cut while I'm working on the music, which will be very helpful as well. Okay, so once I've opened that file, I can insert that into our multi-track session. We'll just go ahead and put it in there. And I just move that up to the front here. Okay. You can see there's our interview. And I don't think he's finished the final cut. I think he's got everything laid out how he wants. I think there's going to be a little intro here, though, because you can actually hear him talking and asking the question at the start of the interview here.
What was going on in your head at that moment? I mean,
it was, the world had ended. Basically, I didn't know how to live as a person with a disability. My name's...
Okay, so we have a couple things going on here. It turns out that the sound of him walking down the stairs, whoops, are actually these clips right here. And for reasons that I don't entirely understand, and that Levi didn't understand because I actually asked him about this, it actually created 3 tracks of the exact same thing. So we're probably not going to need that because all these things that were recorded, the dialogue, and in particular, everything that I recorded in production was recorded mono. So we can, in our mix, change that up if we want to, and we can double up the tracks and be able to do some stereo panning if we wanted to do something along those lines. That's fine. but we really just only need one of them. So that's going to be one of the first things I take care of. As I play a little bit more of this, you will also notice that the music is quite prominent, and it's a little bit difficult to hear the dialogue. Let's listen to some more.
Joel, Nolan, and we grew up all over the place. I come from a big family. I was playing football. I loved playing football. That was my sport of choice. I just loved it. But when I was running the football in 9th grade, I noticed a little stiffness in my ankles when I would cut real hard, and someone was chasing me, trying to run me down. And then one morning I woke up and I couldn't straighten out my legs. I learned to live with it. You know, I never was the type to sit still no matter what.
Okay. So actually things are looking and sounding pretty good. The dialogue is not nearly as present as I would like it, and the music is a little bit more prominent than I would like it. The sound effects, we could probably do a little bit with those as well. I like, for example, in this scene here where he's picking up the tuners out of the box there, there's a little bit of... we have some effects recorded there, and I'd like those to be just slightly more prominent. I think also, if I'm not mistaken, my previous look here, there's another sound effect over here. Let's just play a little bit more.
I make something fulfilling that need, and when it's done...
So you could see there was that sort of that spinning wheel brush type thing that he uses to polish the guitar. And that was probably a little too prominent, so we'll probably do a little mixing there as well to kind of, again, make it feel like you're there and kind of get the feel of the space, but not make it so prominent that it's difficult to hear his dialogue. So here are a couple things that I would do. First and foremost, again, for dialogue, we really only need one track. So I'm going to highlight this one here, and we're just going to go ahead and get rid of it. And same with this second one here, we're going to delete it. Same here, we have a triple tracks here, so we're going to go ahead and get rid of these as well. Same with these here, again, duplicates there. Okay, now the music is actually stereo. You can actually see there's a difference. The waveform is actually different between the two tracks. I'm going to go ahead and leave that as a stereo pair here. See how the waveform differs a little bit. So we're good there. Don't want to mess with that. All right, so now I have, so far I have what is mostly dialogue, but there are also some effects mixed in here as well. So we'll want to separate those out. So this is where I might actually insert a new track. So I'm going to add a mono track. And I think this part was the sound effect.
My name's Joel.
You can just barely hear it, but that's his footsteps as he comes down the stairs here. Now here's the trick. I got to keep this in alignment here. So there's actually a way to do that. Let me just undo here. Again, multi-track track. Let's add a new mono track. And what I need to do is it's this one I need to move. So what I want to do here is there's a way to actually lock this in time so it doesn't move out of sync. So once I've highlighted this clip, I can come into here and choose lock in time. So it won't move back and forth. I can move it to a different track here, and this is our new effects track here. And when I move it down, there's no way for me to move it out of sync. So in fact, what I want to do here is really kind of highlight everything and apply that same thing. I don't want anything to get out of sync here while I'm playing around. So we're going to go ahead and lock everything in time. That just prevents you from making silly mistakes that you'll have a headache trying to fix later on. All right, so let's go ahead and name these. I'm going to just go ahead and call this as my dialogue track, which is DX. I'm going to call these EFX1 for effects, as in sound effects, 2. And we could get more particular if we wanted to do it that way. And then I'm going to call this the music left and music right. Okay, I'm going to pan that hard left, 100, and I'm going to pan this one hard right. All right, now when we play that, we should hear some stereo separation. Cool, okay, and looks like we do. So that's great. Now, one of the big problems I have is that the dialogue is way too quiet. So what I'm going to come do is I'm going to come down to this one here, and actually what I need to do is I'm going to come over and I need to zoom in, first of all. And there's actually some of this dialogue is the interviewer, and I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of it because I know we're not going to keep that in the final piece.
It was, the world.
Your head at that moment. I mean,
It was, the world.
So I know we're not going to include that. So what I want to do is probably come here, and then I'm going to go ahead and use a little bit of a fade in. Let's see how it sounds now.
It was, the world had ended.
Maybe come out just a little bit more and let it fade in more gently.
It was
not too far though, because then we're going to hear the interviewer again. And I can pull that out a little bit more.
It was, the world had ended. Basically, I didn't know how to live as a person with a disability.
Okay. So that's our first thing. So what I want to do here is let's come in here and let's match clip loudness. I want to bring this up to, first of all, I'm going to use the ITU RBS 1773 loudness, standard we use here in the United States. I'm going to go ahead and go to minus 23 LUFS, and I'm going to give us a little bit of wiggle room here. Let's just say half a loudness unit of tolerance. That is to say, it can be, we're giving it a little bit of wiggle room, so it doesn't have to be exactly at minus 23. It can be at minus 23.5 to minus 22.5, somewhere in there. So let's go ahead and give that a go and see how we ended up.
It was, the world had ended. Basically, I didn't know how to live as a person with a disability.
Okay, that's going to work for us, I think. So let's go ahead and zoom back out. What I want to do is this exact same thing for all of these dialogue clips. So let's just go right click, match clip loudness, again, minus 23.5. Let's just go ahead and apply that across the board and see how we go.
My name's Joel Noland, and we grew up all over the place. I come from a big family. I was playing football. I loved playing football. That was my sport of choice. I just loved it. But when I was running the football in 9th grade, I noticed a little stiffness in my ankles when I would cut real hard, and someone was chasing me, trying to run me down. And then one morning I woke up and I couldn't straighten out my legs.
Okay. It's actually, that did a lot for us because now the dialogue is very much present. The music is sitting in the background a little bit more like we want it to. Let's do a little something here with the effects as well. Now this is, actually before I do that, before I move on to the effects, what I want to do is I want to do some work here on the music. Now, there are a lot of different ways you can do what we're going to do here. We're going to use a pretty crude way of doing this. There are more sophisticated ways of doing this, but what we're going to do is going to be pretty... by crude, what I mean is that there are much more sophisticated ways of doing this that could potentially sound even better than what we're going to do. But I just want to kind of stick to a pretty simple approach here. So we're going to go ahead, and I expanded these tracks here because I want to insert a plugin here, and I'm going to come into Filter and EQ, and we're going to use a parametric equalizer. Now, just like we've done, and you may have seen this in some of the previous episodes I've talked about here, what I like to do here is I really like to make room for the dialogue by pulling back just a portion of the music. What I mean by that, in our equalizer here, off to the left we have the low frequency sounds, off to the right we have the high frequency sounds, and an equalizer means you can boost or cut any particular frequency. So if I want to cut some of the bass or the low frequency sounds, I can pull something down like this, or on the other end of the spectrum, the high frequency sounds, the treble sounds, I could cut some things here. Well, in this particular case, most of our dialogue energy is going to be sort of centered around this area in here. This is 1 kilohertz or 1,000 hertz. And what I'm going to do is actually widen this. I want to make a nice sort of trough here that will pull the music back some and make more room for the dialogue. So the dialogue will be very easy and natural to hear, and yet the music will still also be there. It just won't be getting in the way. And the difference between just doing this, or between doing this and just pulling down the overall level of the music, is that it seems like when you just pull down the overall level of the music, sometimes you lose it very quickly. Or if you bump it back up, then it starts to compete with the dialogue again. And using an EQ curve like this will actually make a little bit more room in the music, and so everything sounds a little bit more natural. So let me go ahead and turn that off. Let's play a little bit, and then I'm going to turn it on so we can hear the difference. It's going to be very subtle.
With a disability. My name's Joel Noland, and we grew up all over the place. I come from a big family. I was playing football. I loved playing football. That was my sport of choice. I just loved it.
Okay, now we've only applied that to one channel of the music, and in fact, let's mute this one here and just see what we've got here. And see what we've got here.
Grade. I noticed a little stiffness in my ankles when I would cut real hard, and someone was chasing.
I might have done too much here, so I'm going to pull that back maybe to minus 4 dB. So minus 4 dB at, let's do 1,000 hertz. And then what I'm going to do is just copy this. And so now we have it on both the left and the right channel. Let's unmute this and let's listen to a little bit more.
Chasing me, trying to run me down. And then one morning I woke up and I couldn't straighten out my legs.
Okay, so it's actually sitting a little bit better now. You can hear, again, the dialogue. Not only did we loudness normalize the dialogue to make it more present, but we've also made a space in the music for the dialogue, so they're not competing as much. And overall, it's starting to sound pretty good to me here.
Had different dreams from that point on. Started doing more things with my hands. I was 11, and we all came down with the mumps.
All right, so that's actually sounding pretty good. Let's see how it's sounding over in this area. You can see here the music kind of definitely comes to a crescendo. Whoops, not squeeze it too much, but let's see how the dialogue sits when we get over in this area.
These dowels and then covered them with the skin like the Inuit type kayaks. I think that's the first thing that got me going with doing projects like that, working with my hands. I was watching a program on TV that showed a guy making cellos. And I didn't want to make a cello, but I thought, I wonder if I could build a guitar. And so I got a book from the library and read up on it and built one. It turned out pretty good. So I built another one, and then I was hooked. Furniture was out, guitars were in. I don't know if it's selfish or not, but you just have this need to create, to make something.
Okay. Overall, that sounded pretty good. So I'm going to come in here, and I think I'm going to fine-tune some of these effects here. So let's listen to the section here where he comes down the stairs.
With a disability. My name's Joel Noland. And
I think we might pull that up just a touch. Let's just increase the levels on this one a little bit. Let's go 3 decibels and try that again.
With a disability. My name's Joel Noland, and we grew up all over the place.
Okay, we can probably do something here to make that a little less abrupt. We'll just fade in a touch and fade out a touch.
With a disability. My name's Joel Noland, and we grew up all over the place. I come from a big family. I was playing football. I loved playing football. That was my sport of choice.
Okay, we're going to now increase this effect here. Again, this is the tuners here, the tuning. I'm not even sure the right term. I apologize for all you guitar players out there.
I football. I loved playing football. That was my sport of choice. I just loved it. But when I was running the football in 9th grade...
Could we go a little bit more? Let's go maybe 5 dB.
Football, I loved playing football. That was my sport of choice. I just loved it. But when I was running the football in 9th grade...
You know, I'm going to go back to 3. That doesn't need to be a really prominent effect, but we just don't want to pull the viewer out of the overall experience. So we want them to feel like they're, you know, they're part of this. They're there, but not in your face. So if you go too high on that, it starts to sound forced. All right, so let's go ahead and play again. This is at 3 dB.
Well, I loved playing football. That was my sport of choice. I just loved it. But when I was running the football in 9th grade, I noticed...
Okay, I think that'll work. Let's go and look at this other effect over here. This one's going to be a little trickier. This is the big brush.
And when I make something, I'm fulfilling that need. And when it's done, it fulfills...
Okay, so here's something interesting. If I double click on that, this is the audio, the clip. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pull up my spectrum analyzer here, and let's put this in average plus max mode. Let's just play through a little bit of this. Okay, you can see that's a pretty broadband sound. There's some material all the way down to, 90 hertz up to 100, mostly starting at 100 hertz. And it kind of falls off after, maybe 12 kilohertz. So that's interesting. Now again, because this effect, I don't want this effect to be too prominent. He's still talking, but I want it to be there. We could also do a similar thing. Right now, to me at least, it feels like it's competing with the dialogue and the music. So we might do something similar here. The problem is the music is broadband and the the brush spinning, this brush wheel spinning is broadband as well. So I'm not sure there's going to be a whole lot I can do to change those. I could kind of tweak those if I wanted to, and maybe I want to keep the low frequency material and maybe kind of attenuate some of the higher frequency material so it's not competing with the guitar as much. And in fact, while we're here, what we could do is come back to multi-track, and let's just listen or do a little spectrum analysis on the music as well, just to see where it's sitting. Again, see, it's a total broadband. It's got a lot of low frequency material there. I don't think I'm going to mess with those. I'm just going to leave them as is. So let's come back over here to multi-track. I think with this one here, what I'm going to do is let's go ahead and insert an effect. Again, filter and EQ, parametric equalizer. I'm going to do something very similar to what we did before with the music. And I'm just going to do some attenuation here in the middle. And again, we'll just do maybe 4 dB. And we're going to widen that up. Whoops. Something like that. Let's see what we get with that.
I don't know if it's selfish or not, but you just have this need to create.
Whoops.
I do. And when I make something, I'm fulfilling that need. And when it's done, it fulfills someone else's need.
Okay, I'm going to put just a tiny little bit of a fade. You can see now it's not competing with the dialogue quite as much. It's one of those things where my kind of take on effects are you want the effects there, but you don't want them screaming at the audience. So don't feel like you recorded them and so you have to have them really prominent. They should blend. They should just be there and be very subtle. And that's exactly what we're trying to aim for here. Again, here is what we ended up with.
And when I make something, I'm fulfilling that need, and when it's done, it fulfills someone else's need, their need to play the instrument, to make music. You can connect with them.
Now, here's something interesting. He didn't actually insert. So we have the brush again. So what I might actually do is copy this and paste another copy. I may need to unlock that. So he has another sequence here with that same wheel.
To make music.
Okay. Going back frame at a time, and it ends right there. So let's shorten this up. And we can fade in and out on this one as well. Let's go ahead and see how that goes now.
Play the instrument, to make music. You can connect with them that way, and it fills a need that you have. And if you don't...
Okay, I think that's going to work. I might actually even pull this one down just a couple dB, because it comes in and out so quickly, you don't want it to be too jarring.
Play the instrument, to make music. You can connect with them that way, and it fills a need that you have.
Okay, so there, let's go ahead and stop there. I think we've covered enough for this session. What I might do at this point is go ahead and select everything. I would come down here, export mix down. Let's say we were done. And I would say, let's go ahead and export the entire session. In this particular case, I'll choose a place to put it. This is a fine place. I'm going to save it as a wave. I'm going to keep the sample type the same as the source, 48 kilohertz stereo, 32-bit. That's great. What I want to really output here is I'm really looking for the stereo mix. That's what I'm going to deliver back to Levi, so he can put that in with the finished picture once he's done with color correction. And I think he's going to put on, again, some sort of intro at the start where you can actually hear the interviewer talking. He's going to have some sort of intro there. And then we just click OK, and we have delivered the file that we need to for a very basic mix. So I hope that was helpful for you. Again, I'm not trying to set myself up as an expert here on mixing. This is relatively new to me. I've done this on several projects now, but there's a lot I still have to learn. But there is an example of a very basic mix. Leave any questions you have down below, and we'll talk to you again next week. Take care, everybody.